أعزائي مشاهدين ومتابعين صفحة مركز الجالية العربية، أهلا وسهلا بحضراتكم ومساء الخيرات عليكم في كل مكان في كندا وخارج كندا من جميعين متابعينا في برنامج اسأل المستشار أو Ask the Expert. حلقة جديدة بتتجدد مع حضراتكم، وعلى الوعد دائما من مركز الجالية العربية إن احنا بنقدم لحضراتكم كل ما هو مفيد ونافع لحياتكم وحياة أسركم في إعادة التوطين في كندا أو بناء ثقافة جديدة ومجتمع جديد في المجتمع الكندي. مركز الجالية العربية في الوقت الحالي أصبح تركيزه واهتمامه بخلاف مساعدة حضراتكم في الأمور الخاصة بالأوراق وإعادة التوطين، كمان بيهتم أكتر وأكتر بالصحة النفسية والعقلية لكل القادمين الجدد في كندا، لأن طبعا تواجد في مكان جديد ومجتمع جديد وفي أرض جديدة تختلف ثقافتها عن ثقافة البلدان اللي حضراتكم جيتوا منها، اختلاف اللغة، اختلاف عادات الأكل والشرب، اختلاف عادات التعليم كمان للأولاد والبنات. كل ده ممكن يوصل الشخص أو الإنسان أو العائلة اللي وصلت إلى أرض كندا يكون عندها ضغوط، والضغوط دي ممكن تولد أنواع من أنواع الأمراض المزمنة لا سمح الله. عشان كده كان اهتمام رئيس مجلس إدارة مركز الجالية العربية وفريق العمل كلنا إن إحنا إزاي نقدر نكثف جهودنا في بخلاف جنبا إلى جنب وبطريق متوازي في مساعدة حضراتكم إن إحنا نساعدكم في إعادة التوطين في الأمور الخاصة بالأوراق والمسائل الحكومية، كمان نضع الاهتمام النفسي ونحط له الأولوية الأولى. عشان كده النهاردة هتكون حلقة متعلقة بإزاي نقدر نتعامل مع الاسترس أو الضغوط الموجودة في الحياة، إزاي نقدر نتغلب عليها، وده هيكون من خلال استضافتنا لمستر جون ماكاون. هو المؤسس لشركة أو المنظمة اسمها هيكو كوتشنج. Mr. John, thank you very much for accepting our invitation today, and we are so happy to see you and invite you in the first session for you with the episodes Ask the Expert over Arab Community Center of Toronto Facebook. Thank you very much for coming today.
Well, thank you very much, Sameh, for inviting me here, and I'm very excited about being on the show and answering any questions and hopefully helping people to find ways to adjust to the culture and deal with stress.
Definitely. Thank you. First of all, we'd like to know brief about your organization. How is that one? Hyuko Coaching, the idea came from where and what you're doing in your business?
Yeah, that's a great question. So with Hyako Coaching, it came out of my experiences originally as an ESL instructor, where I was working in Japan for several years and worked here in Canada as well before I transitioned into intercultural coaching. And it came out of my experiences being in Japan. It was my first time being in another culture. I was born and raised in Canada, and I had never really, I'd never lived overseas before. So as you can imagine, the cultural differences between Canada and Japan were quite big, quite significant. Yeah. So based off of that and my experiences there, I had an interest in culture. And of course, being in Canada and especially in Toronto, where there are so many people from all over the world who have come here working together, and so many cultures mixing together and sharing that. It's a wonderful thing, but it can also be quite stressful for people coming here for the first time. So I'm very interested in helping them based on the experiences that I had when I was in Japan.
Right.
And so one other thing I should mention about the name, Hyaku Coaching. Well, we talked about this before.
Hyaku.
So Hyaku is a Japanese word for a step forward. So a big step forward, big progress. So I liked that because it has some connections to Japan, which is part of my life experience. So that name is very personal to me. So
right. انا كنت بساله بقول له ايه طبيعه البيزنس بتاعك او ايه طبيعه الشغل بتاعك. فهو مؤسس لمنظمه اسمها هياكو كوتشنج. هياكو باللغه اليابانيه هي كلمه يابانيه بتعني التقدم الى الامام او التطوير من المكان اللي انت فيه. هي كلمه يابانيه، هياكو بمعنى التقدم الى الامام او انك تروح على مكان افضل. وكان بيقول باني اهتمامه في هذا الشغل او في هذا البيزنس اللي احنا ممتنين باستضافته معانا، ان هو ازاي بيقدر يساعد الناس النيو كومر او القادمين الجدد على كندا ان هم يقدروا يتعاملوا مع الضغوط النتيجة للتعاون في مجتمع جديد والتواجد في ارض جديدة. Right. So John, if we can start today for what the interest for our audience, even for me as a working as a social worker with a community, most of the newcomer have pressure from the first day, from day one, come to Canada for have something called the homesickness, or they already suffering from. They used to do something in their countries. Here in Canada is different, especially if they came in winter, especially if they came even in summer. We have a lot of rains. Everything is different. So how we can deal with this kind of sickness, what's called homesickness?
that's a very good question, Same. So I would say there are a number of things that you can do to adjust to homesickness. Homesickness is, of course, very natural. When you leave your home country, what you are used to, and going into a new situation, everyone experiences that. And it can be quite stressful. But also, there can be a lot of opportunities for growth. I think one of the most important things to help with adjusting is to have an open mind and be curious. Now, of course,
Be
as you
curious.
mentioned, yeah,
Okay.
being
Right.
curious, yes, that is, I'd say, the most important thing. Because really, there are two ways that you can react to a new situation. You can either judge it and block it off and say, "Oh, no, that's not for me," automatically, or you can be curious and decide to learn more about it. Oh, okay, so this is the way. For example, Canadians seem to say sorry all the time, right? So you could think, oh, they're weird, they're strange. Why do they do that? Or you could think, I wonder what's the reason for that. And now you may decide that eventually that it's just different and not part of who you are. But at least being open and aware and being able to ask questions. I think having an open mindset that, yes, this is different than what I'm used to, and not judging it, saying, oh, well, this is no good, or even judging, oh, this is better than my home country. Neither idea is good. It's good to just recognize it's different, and maybe there's something you can learn from it.
So open-minded means you can accept, or as you said, it's a good one. What you stated for, it's kind of curious. It's a new experience. It's a new country, something like this. That's what you mean is about curious, and you can already looking for something new and learn. That's what you mean, right?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Yes.
Right. Okay. أنا كنت بسأل مستر جون، كنت بقول له إن الحنين إلى الوطن أو اللي إحنا بنسميه الهوم سيكنس، الحنين إلى الوطن هو يعتبر من العارض الأساسي اللي بيكون عند أي إنسان قدم إلى كندا والعائلات الجديدة اللي بتيجي على كندا. فكنت بسأله بقول له إزاي نقدر نتغلب على الهوم سيكنس أو إن إحنا يكون عندنا الحنين إلى أوطاننا. فهو بيقول لي أول حاجة لازم الشخص لما بيوصل على كندا أو حتى الشخص الموجود هنا في كندا وبيعاني من هذا العرض، الحنين إلى الوطن، خصوصا المجتمع العربي، نظرا للاختلافات الكتير اللي بيننا ما بين المجتمع الكندي. فهو بيقول لي لازم يكون عنده كمان التطور في تفكيره، انه هو يكون قابل لفكرة انه رايح على مجتمع جديد. كمان هو نصح بإن يكون عنده كمان روح الاستقبال، أو إن بنسميها إنك تكون عايز تعرف، عايز تروح زي ما كأنك بتروح مكان جديد أو رحلة، بتبقى أنت عايز تزور كل أماكن في الرحلة دي، عايز تاكل كل الأكل الموجود في الرحلة دي أو في المكان اللي أنت بتزوره، عشان تبقى أنت عايز تتطور من نفسك وعايز تندمج مع المجتمع الكندي. فدي أول خطوة من خطوات انك انت بيكون عندك العارض اللي بنسميه الحنين الى الوطن او الهوم سيكنس. فلازم يكون عندك نوع من انواع التقبل، ده نمرة واحد. نمرة اتنين، يكون عندك روح انك انت عايز تعمل هذا الموضوع. Right. So now as a homesickness, as you mentioned, John, for the first thing, it's an open-minded, but if still the family, after 1 year, the excitedness for Canadian is done, and they already went to the business, going to the work, father and mother most of the day outside, and kids in school. Now we're facing another problem, the English barriers, because
Yes.
not all the newcomers speak in English. Even if they speak in English, they don't have the Canadian way to express, like some expressions, some words. Every country have specific even accent. How we can work with those kind of family struggling in business and in school with the language barriers?
Yes. Well, when it comes to language, I think obviously different people have different abilities. Some people will be able to adapt to the language more quickly. Of course, there are many resources to study and to practice. I think that the most important thing to do when you are adapting to anything new, including a language, is to find something that you like about it, something that you enjoy about it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that when many people, and obviously there is pressure, of course, for business to develop your English to a certain level and to when children in school, and that can be tough. And I know learning another language can be challenging, but if you can find something that you enjoy, maybe a subject that you have an interest in,
Mm-hmm.
and learn about it and connect with it somehow in that language, that can help. So, for example, let's say you have an interest in soccer or football.
Right.
We say soccer here. Then developing that, then what you do is focus on, okay, English language materials based around soccer,
Mm-hmm.
watching the games based on soccer, reading magazines about soccer and news stories. And
Okay.
because you have that interest, then that helps you gives you more motivation to get better. And that can also carry over into other areas like
Oh, that can
business.
help. Even let's
Yes.
say if we're talking about females, because this one is the core of the community, is the core of the family. If she is liking cooking, let's say for instance,
Yes.
she can still reading in cooking in English to improve the language, and in the same way, she reading something she's love it to do it. This
Exactly.
will be help and release the stress.
Yes, yes. And it certainly gives that motivation to keep pushing because when you have when you think about the language in a positive way, you're much
Mhm.
more motivated than when you think, oh, it's something I have to study and I don't like it because you're just reading maybe textbooks all the time. You want to
Oh,
connect it to your your life and your hobbies. And I think that can really help with the motivation to keep going.
right. Even if the mother or the father need to study with their kids, they can involve themselves in the small sentence or small words for the kids, the primary school. They can make double benefit to build the connections with the kids and still getting English from their kids.
Exactly. Yes.
Right,
Yes.
right. أنا كنت باسأل جون على إن إزاي بنقدر نتغلب كمان على عائق من ضمن العوائق اللي بتواجه كتير من القادمين الجدد إلى كندا، وهو عائق اللغة. لما بيكون في حد بيجي على مجتمع جديد خصوصا المجتمع الكندي، طبعا الانجليش او اللغة الانجليزية هي اللغة العامة في كندا بخلاف اللغة الفرنسية، ولكن طبعا بصفة ان احنا متواجدين في تورونتو، طبعا اللغة الانجليزية هي اللغة الاعم. فهو كان بينصح بيقول باني عشان نضيع الضغط الناتج من ان احنا ما عندناش الخلفيه في التحدث باللغه الانجليزيه، وحتى ايفن لو الناس اللي هي جايه ويكون عندها خلفيه بالانجليزي، انك تتكلم انجليزي مع الناس في الشارع مش سهل. انك تتكلم انجليزي في الناس مع الشغل برضه ما بيبقاش سهل في الايام الاولى او في السنين الاولى في كندا. فهو بينصح بيقول بانك انت لو عندك اهتمام معين، زي مثلا انت مهتم بفوتبول، اهتمام بالسكر او كرة القدم، اهتمام بالعربيات، اهتمام بالاخبار السياسية، كمان السيدات لها اهتمام باي شيء مثلا متعلق بان هي بتطبخ او بتعمل اكل، تقرا باللغة الانجليزية في الشيء اللي هي مهتمة بيه. يعني لو هي ابتدت تقرا كتب او وصفات باللغة الانجليزية، بتعمل لنفسها دبل بينفيت او ميزتين. الميزه الاولانيه ان هي بتحسن من اللغه الانجليزيه، الميزه الثانيه بان هي كمان بتطور من نفسها في المجال او في الحته اللي هي بتحبها وهو بيحبها. ده هيضيع كمان الضغط من الوجود، عدم وجود لغه انجليزيه. كمان مساعده الاطفال في المدارس، انك انت الاطفال وهم بيذاكروا في السن الصغير لحد مثلا جريد 5 6، تقدر كمان تحط نفسك معاهم تقرا شويه من اللي هم بيقروه، هيساعدك انك انت تاخد انجليزي، تبلد انجليزي مع نفسك. الحاجه الثانيه انك انت بتزود علاقتك بابنك او ببنتك في كندا. That's a great, John. That's a good advice for the people. They can read a lot of English in their interest. It will be very, very, very good for them. So for the other one, this is from what we got from our community. For
Okay.
sure, we have a lot of stress, but I already make it in order, just only to make it easier for them and for me and for sure, definitely for you. So now the homesickness is done. We can deal with it, the English barriers. If we go to the cultures is totally different. Canada is totally different than even our neighbor states. So how we can integrate our cultures to the Canadian culture without to find a fight between cultures?
That is another very good question. I would say, again, similar to what I said about homesickness,
Mhm,
is having that open mind and being curious is also extremely important here.
mhm,
A lot of the conflicts that happen from cultures can be because we make assumptions about what correct behavior is or the
mhm.
correct way of doing things is.
In,
And
in which way assumption you mean, John? Give me an
uh,
example.
well, okay, for example, I will talk about my experiences with Japan. I'll give one example.
Yeah.
Now, you may be familiar in Canadian culture that eye contact with
Yes.
another person
Yeah.
is extremely important. It's shown, it's considered a sign of respect and that the
Correct.
person is trustworthy.
Yeah.
Um, Now, in Japan, it's quite the opposite.
Oh
So,
yeah.
yes, because, for example, if someone who is younger has direct eye contact with someone who is older, who is more respected, that can be a sign of aggression that they're looking for some kind of conflict.
Oh.
So and this was one thing that I had to adjust to if I was speaking to one of my students, that
Mhm.
they might not feel comfortable looking at directly in my making eye contact with me. because they wanted to show respect. But for me, initially, I thought, oh, well, they're not paying attention to me. They're not listening to me. So there was confusion because I had my cultural bias as a Canadian. Eye contact shows respect. But many of my students had that idea that not making eye contact shows respect. So once I learned about the differences, then of course I was able to adjust. But that judgment, if you make assumptions based on your own cultural biases, then that's where some conflict, I think, can come in. So being aware of that, and maybe asking questions, finding out more about the cultures. And obviously, hopefully, this is a two-way communication. So people from other cultures, including Canadians interacting with people from Arabic countries, can also be open-minded. And then we learn more about each other and have a greater understanding. And
But for the first time happened for you in Japan, when you talk to your student, they didn't pay attention to you as we do here in Canada, the eye contact. Did you get it like in an opposite way, like they don't give me an attention, they don't respect me, and you went home upset, and you still think about it, or how you adjust yourself to the Japanese culture?
that's also a good question. At first, I didn't understand, so I was maybe a little confused or a bit upset because I had made assumptions. Um, I think when it came to the situation, one of the things that I did was talk about the differences. And once I learned more about it and explained, oh, well, in Canadian culture, when we look at each other, it shows a sign of respect. And they, of course, communicated to me that when they look away, it's a sign of respect, not making eye contact. And I think it wasn't a case of trying to force them. No, you have to make eye contact with me.
Okay, so
that's not
you
correct
didn't ask
either.
them to pay attention to you.
Well, they were paying attention, but it was just a case of showing the respect
The
in
respect.
different ways. And I think that the key is, for me as a person, I can't control what the other person does,
Right.
but I can control how I react, and I can control what I do. So when I was in situations, depending on the people I was interacting with, sometimes I realized, okay, for me, it was good to make eye contact. And other times I realized, for example, if I was dealing with someone who was Japanese and older, that for me, maybe not making eye contact sometimes was good. So I didn't completely become Japanese, of course, but I did take some parts from Japanese culture and combined it with my background from Canadian culture, and kind of, I think, became a better person because I was able to take bits and pieces. And I think that's important when you're adapting to another culture. You can take pieces that you're comfortable with,
Okay, that's a good
but
thing.
yeah, but not completely change yourself. So it's not like you're trying, when you come to Canada, you don't have to become, I'm going to be 100% like a Canadian who was born and raised here. That's your identity of who you are is important. So it's just taking those pieces and maybe adapting depending on the situation, but also bringing the strong parts, the parts that
That's
you
a
like
good
from your
point.
culture.
This is
Yeah.
amazing point you raised, John. So you recommend to keep the identity for the newcomer and take a piece based on the Canadian culture to adapt yourself, but still you don't have to peel your skin or to throw out your culture away or your religion away or whatever you believe and norms and value. Keep it as is, still working on it, and take the pieces from the Canadian culture. That's a good advice. I like that.
exactly.
اللي بيقوله مستر جون إن كنا بنتكلم في نقطة مهمة، وهي نقطة الثقافة الكندية واختلافها عن الثقافات المجتمعات العربية. فأنا كنت بسأله بقول له إزاي بنقدر في مواجهة الصراع الثقافي أو الحضاري اللي بيكون موجود في كندا مع القادمين الجدد. فهو ادانا مثال على ان هو لما كان في اليابان في كندا بيبقى دايما ثقافه انك انت وانت بتكلم حد بتبقى عينيك في عينيه، اللي بنسميها الاي كونتاكت. فالطلبه عنده في اليابان ما عندهمش هذه الثقافه، لما بتيجي بتتكلم ما بتبصش في عينيه، ما بتبقاش عينك في عين الطالب بتاعك. الموضوع ده كان ممكن يأثر على علاقته بالطلبه، بان هو ده كان هيشوفها بان هم مش محترمينه او مش مدينه الاهتمام الكافي. فهو كان بيمنع انك مفيش اسامبشن. الاسامبشن بمعنى انك انت بتفترض الحاجه اللي قدامك وتترجمها بناء على معتقداتك. يعني زي ما قلنا مثلا على سبيل المثال ان المجتمع الكندي لما دايما بيحصل انت وحتى وانت معدي في السوبر ماركت وحد دس على رجلك وحتى لو خفيف او خبط في ظهرك، دايما هتلاقيه بيقول لك سوري، بيعتذر لك. دايما الكنديان اول ذا تايم سي سوري. فانت ممكن من خلالك تحس ان يعني هم بيعملوا كده ليه، وتتضايق، وان ليه المجتمع واقف عند نقطه يعني ايه خبطني وقال لي سوري مفيش مشكله خلاص يعدي. لا، دي ثقافة. مثلا ثقافة ان المجتمع الكندي بيهتم مثلا برياضات زي الهوكي، بيتكلموا عن الهوكي، بيتكلموا عن الباسكت، وبيتكلموا مثلا على الجو. دايما كل يوم لما بتروح شغلك او بتروح المدرسة، ولادك او بناتك بتلاقي ان اصحابهم والمدرسين ومديرينك في الشغل بيتكلموا دايما على الجو. ممكن دي ما تكونش ثقافة موجودة في المجتمعات عندنا، احنا غير مش مهتمين بالجو، لان بلادنا يعني الجو فيها مستقر معظم طول السنة. فانت ما تاخدش هذا الموضوع وتفترض وتاسامشن، تعمل اسامشن جواك باني يعني مثلا حاجه تافهه، حاجه ملهاش لازمه، هم شاغلين نفسهم باي كلام، وتبتدي انت تحط ضغوط على نفسك وتحس انك انت بره المجتمع. لا، هو جون بينصح بيريكومند بانك انت تيك بيس، يعني بتاخد حته من المجتمع وتبتدي تتعايش بيها. That's awesome, John. Sorry to make it long for translation because this subject is so good. I already recommended what you recommend for them to take a piece, don't make assumptions, and try to adjust yourself to the Canadian one by one, not from day one to be a Canadian born and raised here in Canada.
Well, thank you.
Right.
Thank you so much for the translation
No,
too.
thank
I
you,
really
thank you
appreciate it.
for having you. Thank you. And the other thing, if we go to for the youth, because we already our focusing as an immigration or as any associations working on the newcomers, the youth is a valuable things for us, especially for the newcomer, because they are the future for Canada. The youth have a lot of stress and they're struggling. First of all, from if they came from countries they speak English, yes, you already covered this. Second, if they have different color, if they have different religion, if they are a different race, and not easy to integrate into the high schools, especially together, not easily to integrate the people of the youth in the Canadian way of education, because the education is different. So what will happen is most of the youth, they have two ways. One way is already to close themselves, don't integrate themselves, feel regretting and stay alone, and they're stressing a lot. The other way, they open themselves to the Canadian culture, but they cannot catch up. So they will be between Canadian culture and the other culture, they will be in the middle and they're struggling a lot. How you recommend those groups of youth?
That is a good question. I know that, as we all know, I think that that time as youths and as teenagers is a very can be a very emotionally stressful
Yeah,
time,
very emotional,
right?
very emotional,
Right.
especially
And
for girls.
yes, I'm sure. And And the adjustment, adding on the challenge of moving to a new culture, can certainly add to that.
Mhm.
For individual youth, again, I think that, of course, having an attitude of being open to differences, I think, I mean, of those two situations that you suggested, the one of closing off, I think is of course something you want to avoid. It's better to be at least somewhat open,
Mhm.
to have a curious mind. When it comes to, I think it's basically comes down to developing your identity. And obviously, as adults, we
Yeah.
have an identity and a sense of who we are.
Mhm.
Um, I really think that, of course, this is difficult for youths to do by themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think there is a need for support
Mhm.
to help them to navigate these kinds of challenges, questions about who they are. And they may be more questioning. Am I a Canadian? Am I from my country? What does that
Yeah. Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
I think that if they, can go through this, and with the right support, that can actually, in the long run, be an advantage, because when they are adults and
Mhm.
they have experienced both cultures and experienced them in a positive way, I think
Positive.
that's
Mhm.
positive exposure to their home culture and the culture that's available here in Canada, then they can be someone who can, as an adult, can move in between and act as a bridge
Yeah. Yeah.
between the cultures. And I think that in that way, they can be an extremely valuable asset for their home community and for Canada, for Canadians
Mhm.
as well, because so much of our history is based on immigration and people coming from different cultures. And if we can have a better understanding of each other, then there's so much that we can accomplish. And
Right.
those youth are
Mhm.
such a vital part of that. So it really comes down to what support that perhaps they can have in the schools or community centers to help them uh, go through these and ask these questions and find answers for themselves. Because to ask youth to do it by themselves, that can be pretty tough
Very tough.
without that
Very tough.
experience.
But
Yeah.
if I catch one of your word, like you said, support. For the support, based on my experience and the other counselors as a working as a social worker, especially for the newcomers, they don't differentiate between life coach and therapist. Because when they ask them to go to the life coach, saying, "Oh no, I'm okay. I don't need any therapist." And in the other culture, like the Arabic cultures, when you ask for support, especially for mentally or for life coaching therapist, means you already have something to shame from, or you have something you don't
Mm.
have to explore it to your life coach. I'm okay. I'm not sick, because sick means you have something in your body, but the brain doesn't have sick. This is based in the other culture. But here, we need to give the people the hint about what the differentiate between you as a life coach and the therapist.
That's a very good question. And I can see that sometimes the confusion is quite common. Therapists and coaches are somewhat similar, but uh, in the fact that we ask important questions, to powerful questions,
Yeah.
to help people find answers. But therapy is focused on the past. So helping people who have had past traumas or past experiences that are affecting their lives now. And
Mhm.
therapy is very valuable. I think that at least in there's more acceptance of it now in at least in Canadian culture than there was in the past.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's a positive thing. But it is focused on the past. Whereas coaching, whether it's life coaching or business coaching, which I'm also involved in, um, it's focused on the present and the future.
The present,
So
the future for the life
yes,
coaching therapist in the past.
yes, and life coaching and whether it's life coaching or professional or business coaching or any kind of coaching is focused on what is possible in the future. And the assumption is that the person who is being coached is not sick. They are a whole person, they are capable, and the answers are inside of them. They just need to be asked the right questions to help them find the answers.
Mhm. Mhm.
So in other words, if a person goes to a coach, there is no, belief that, oh, the person's not well. No, the person is well and whole. It's just a little bit of assistance in finding the way.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
Okay. I'll translate this to the audience. أنا كنت بسأل جون، كنت بقول له إن من ضمن الضغوط اللي بتواجه القادمين الجدد، وهو كمان تركيزنا بيكون على الشباب. الشباب لما بيروحوا على مدارسهم وعلى الجامعات، حتى اللي هم اوريدي بيكونوا اتخرجوا من جامعات وجايين على كندا يدخلوا المجتمع الكندي، الشباب بيكونوا كمان أكثر ايموشنالي، أو يكون عندهم التأثير العاطفي كبير جدا. فهم مش بيقدروا يتعاملوا مع المجتمع الكندي من منطلق العملي، بيتعاملوا معاه من منطلق العواطف او العاطفه، الايموشنز. فهو كان بيقول بان اهم حاجه بان الشخص يكون منفتح على المجتمع، ولو حس ان هو عنده نوع من انواع التضارب في الثقافات او في الحضارات او في اي نوع من هذا النوع، بيطلب المعونه، بيطلب المساعده. المساعده دي بتكون يا اما عن طريق اللايف كوتش او عن طريق الثيرابيست. الثيرابيست ده اللي هو الطبيب النفسي، يعني ده طبيب اتخرج من كليه الطب وعنده تخصص نفسي. اما اللايف كوتش هو المعالج النفسي. في فرق كبير ما بين الطبيب النفسي وبين المعالج النفسي. الطبيب النفسي اللي هو الدكتور بيكون مهتم بالحاجات اللي حصلت في الماضي، يعني مثلا حد اتعرض لحروب معينة في مناطق الحروب والنزاعات، ستات اتعرضت لعنف مثلا، في أطفال حصل حادثة لوالدهم ووالدتهم، شاب حصل له مثلا صدمة نفسية في الماضي وبيعاني منها. لكن اللايف كوتش هو بيهتم بان هو لبكره، للفيوتشر، بياخد منك الوضع اللي انت فيه وبيحاول يساعدك ياخد من ايدك على بكره. So John, if we keep continue with the life coach can build a plan for the seeker to be a good one in the community, or he can advise him to do something, trainings, meditation, how it works.
Well, as I mentioned, coaching, as it's defined by the International Coaching Federation, the ICF, is partnering with the client to help them. It's not so much about giving advice, saying, "Oh, you should do this, you should do that," or making a plan for the client. It's more about helping the client think about, okay, well, what goals do you have? Helping them define what goals they have. So it's not
Okay.
the coach giving them the goals saying you should do this. It's like, well,
So
what goals
you
do you
get the
have?
goals from the client. The
Yes.
client, okay, right, okay.
And then asking them questions about, okay, well, how uh, for example, maybe the finding the best ways to, what actions can
Mm,
they take to reach those goals. And every session has a goal. Now, there could be an overall goal in the long term, such as finding a job, for example.
Yeah.
But individual sessions may be focused on smaller points of, for example, the best way to network for people, or best way to prepare for an interview, for example.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of it is because, again, we assume the client, the person being coached, has the answers inside of them. So we ask them the questions, okay, what actions are you going to take?
Mm-hmm.
Helping them become more aware, because many people just assume, oh, I can't do this, I can't do that. Okay, so
Yeah, yeah.
what's,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
and
very
it's,
common. That's very common to say I can't do this, right?
mhm.
So now if we go deeper in this point, because this point is very important about to get the goals. You don't create a goals to the client. The goals came from the client, right?
Exactly.
Let's say someone already in the university level, and he went to the university here in Canada. He feel integrated, but after a couple of weeks, he feel uh, he that's his feeling neglecting. He cannot deal with the community. He doesn't have a girlfriend. He doesn't have the way they talk. He doesn't have the way they wear the outfit. They don't share talking about volleyballs or basketballs or hockey. He didn't drinks. Maybe he's have religious barriers for drinking. So now he already come to you. He knocking your door. He asking for support. So now the goals he will be like those kind of people in the university. How we can help him to integrate himself to it?
Well, if a client were to come to me with those situations, a lot of it would start with questions, but
Yeah.
I would start with questions such as, uh, well, um, we would focus on, okay, well, what is it that you'd like to focus on in our time today for this session? Because it's important to focus on really one goal or one thing at a time.
Let's say he tell you, I need to have a conversation because when they talking about hockey, I don't understand. I don't have any interest even for the hockey. But the people most of the days talking about hockey and games and NBA and Toronto Raptors. How I can be a part of this?
Then I would ask, what's the importance of conversation for you?
Uh, just only to show I am here and I am one of this group. I don't have to be silent most of the time. If boy, he need to already make attraction for girls and girls to be attraction for boys, vice versa. That's the main goal.
And what's the importance of showing that you're here?
To don't feel like I am a stranger. I like to be make satisfaction to myself to be one of the Canadian society. I am a member, and it's not easy for me to be silent most of the time. And the people look to me like I am an alien came from the sky.
Right. So as this proceeds,
Mhm.
because this could end up becoming a whole coaching conversation,
Yeah.
you can see the questions that I started to ask are starting to get more into what the person's mindset is. So you could see I was asking, what's the importance of showing up for you? And they start to proceed into that. I might ask a bit more about some of the words that he used. Okay, that I feel like an alien, that they look at me like I'm an alien.
Hmm.
And basically it's to get into, okay, what is it important? So we even started just with that conversation, to feel like I'm part of the conversation, that I'm part of that. And then it's because I could just give suggestions. Oh, okay, well, go study, go watch hockey so you have something to talk about. And
Yeah. Yeah.
that would be very surface point,
Hmm.
right? And okay, then they might be able to talk about hockey, but they might still feel kind of fake because maybe they don't have an interest in hockey, and not being true to themselves. So perhaps the exploration could end up being, okay, well, what kind of things are there? Maybe maybe it's a case of finding different people who can connect with. Maybe there are people who have interests in things that he has, and maybe it's just being accepted, and it doesn't necessarily have to be by that particular group, but it's
Yeah.
getting them to think, well, what other possibilities are there?
Mhm.
And that's the key behind coaching in general, is just because I may have, as a coach, I may have some thoughts, but
Yeah.
my answers might not be the best answers for him.
I like the way how you're questioning and your tone even. uh, it gives me the feeling like you're trying to niche inside me to find where is the main core or the main interest, because the question, it was a general. I'd like to talk to my friends with hockey and NBA and Toronto Raptors. But in the other side, when you ask me a questions and you're trying to give me the feeling like you are in my side, not to give me an advice. During the conversation, I gave it you my interest to make a girl friend or to make a boy friend. So the question from the beginning, starting like I'd like to be one of the part of the community, but the main interest is not like this. And another question, when you ask me about, right, this one, it's already helping even during the coach. So what you want to do to help yourself to be a part of the community? Those kind of questions, it helping. So this is change, even for me, change my mind about life coaching, because I heard before I said life coaching means you give me advice, do this, 1 2 3 4. It is a plan, timetable for you. We can see you after 1 month. We'll see what you did with the timetable. But now it's totally different. It is a goal. I have a goal, and you're trying to help me to find my way to achieve that goal.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
right. انا كنت
Yeah.
بسأل جون على اللايف كوتشنج، بقول له تعالى نعمل مع بعض سيناريو او حوار ازاي لايف كوتشنج بيشتغل مع الكلاينت. فكنت تصورنا ان شاب وصل الى كندا، الشاب ده دخل الجامعه او حتى راح الهاي سكول والمدرسه، وهو بيتكلم مع اصحابه، بيتكلم مع الولاد والبنات، فلقى ان هو اوريدي مش لاقي طريقه للكلام معهم. هم بيتكلموا عن الهوكي، بيتكلموا على الباسكت بول، عن NBA، عن فريق تورونتو رابترز اللي بيلعب في مسابقه الدوري الامريكي لكره السله المحترفين. فهو ابتدى يتكلم معايا از لايف كوتش، بيقول لي ايه هو الاهتمام الاساسي بانك انت كطالب يعني او كشاب داخل على الهاي سكول عايز تتكلم في هذه الموضوعات. فكان الهدف من ان هو بيسالني از لايف كوتش، بيحاول يوصل انا عايز ابقى ايه، يعني ايه الفكره ان انا اتكلم في الهوكي، هوصل لايه يعني. هل مثلا ده هيكون اهتمامي ان انا احب الهوكي، او ان انا مثلا عاوز اكون متميز قدام الناس. ف فبيقول لي مثلا خدنا الحوار، فقال لي مثلا هنتصور بان الشاب ده او الشابه دي هيكون الاهتمام بتاعه ان هو مثلا عاوز يكون ليه بوي فريند، او عاوز يكون ليه جيرل فريند، او هي عندها بوي فريند مثلا، يعني في هذا السن. فبيقول لي ان الاهتمام في السؤال من الاساس في اوله كان على اني ازاي انا اتكلم في الهوكي واتكلم في الباسكت. لكن لما سالنا اكتر ودخلنا اكتر جو ديبر اكتر جوه الشخص، عرفنا ان الاهتمام الاساسي بتاعه مش الهوكي ومش الباسكت، هو الاهتمام ان هو ياخد اهتمام المجموعه سواء ولاد او بنات، عشان يبني علاقات جديده في المجتمع الجديد. So the life coach now already he trying to find the goals, and the goals are there, and we're trying the way to achieve the goals. What's the follow-up? How the follow-up works for?
Well, one of the other major parts of coaching is accountability. So when the client identifies different actions to take, then it's to encourage, okay, now that you've said these things in the process, the coaching process, um, these ideas become more real, right? Talking about it and saying, when a client says that, okay, this is what I'm going to do, they've identified the goals and the actions they're going to take, they're more likely to go and do those things.
Mhm.
And there's accountability built in, saying one of the questions often at the end of a session is, okay, so who are you going to be accountable to? Is it going to be yourself? Is it going to be another person in your life that you're going to make sure that you do these actions? Some clients will feel accountable to their coach. When they have the next session, they want to make sure that they've done the things that they said they're going to do, or at least making progress towards
Yeah.
them. But it's really the idea with that accountability is an important part, because if you don't have accountability, you talk about things but don't do them,
Mhm.
then the pressure, the motivation has to come from the client. Ultimately, they have to have the desire to change and knowing that they want to make a change.
I like
Yeah.
is this one desire to change. You stated like a desire, like it is a desire or it's kind of plan. It is a desire to change. But if the client already doesn't have the desire, based on the pressure came from he cannot find work, he's have English barriers, his governmental paper not done yet, and he'd like to back again to his land, but his land have a war. So now he's already cycling himself with a lot of devils. So now he doesn't have desire. Again, the life coach can trying to help him to build the desire, or the desire itself it came manufactured in the person.
Yeah, the desire ultimately has to come from the person, from the client. Uh, they may not know exactly how to reach the goals, but at least that desire. I know the situation I'm in right now is not where I want to be, and I want to make a change. If that desire to change is not there, then there's not much that the coach can do, because that's where the motivation and the impetus all comes from the client, right?
Oh, okay. So
Hmm.
this one is still connected with the first point. It is an open mind. So if you have the open mind from the day one you landed here in Canada, you still work by yourself to yourself. Again, you have a desire, and the desire can motivate you. So without the desire, you cannot you cannot work with him. It's not like a therapist to give him pills or injections in his body and vaccine, like is this terminology now it's available on the table, vaccine, to vaccinate yourself anti pressure. You cannot do this without the motivation itself.
That's right. That's right. There has to be that desire to make some kind of change.
So if we need to take from you as an advice now, we already gradually, slowly, our life will come back again before the pandemic after 2 years lockdown, or more than 2 years lockdown inside our homes. So now we feel the pressure is still there. We have the fear from the infections. We have the fear from we I cannot do this because for 3 years you're staying home, and all of a sudden you'll take your car and go to your business. So we need to take from you a tip for how to deal with those kind of pressure, especially for the prices now is going up crazy after the war happened in Russia and Ukraine, and the gas price up, the groceries up, and you have to go to your work. You have to put your car again to the insurance, and you pay a lot of money. So those kind of pressure, we need a small tip till for sure as a session one by one, uh, it will be more sophisticated. But for a general tip, how we can help ourselves to deal with those kind of pressures.
I would say that one thing that we as humans are very good at doing is deciding what we don't want. You know, I don't want to lose my job. I don't want to make a mistake, for example.
Mm.
What's really important, I think, is to adjust your mindset and to focus on what it is you do want.
Mhm.
So rather than, okay, I don't want to lose my job, I want to find a better paying job, for example, or
Mm.
I want to uh, I want to make friends, for example,
Mhm.
and identifying again what the reasons are. So if you have a better paying job, what becomes possible, and thinking again, focusing on the positive possibilities. And sometimes this can be challenging, of
Yeah.
course,
Yeah.
when you're in difficult situations.
Mhm. Mhm.
But if you focus on what you don't want all the time, then sometimes it's hard to identify what you actually do want, and then you're motivated by negativity and just trying to prevent losing things instead of seeing, okay, well, what can I actually gain? So if I go out into the world, what becomes possible if I go out and start driving and start interacting with people again. What becomes possible then when I've been
Oh,
home
okay.
all these times of
So
years?
you again, you make a new goals. You make a new
Yes,
goals. All
you're right.
right, right, right. أنا كنت
Yes.
باسأل جون، كنت باقول له في الفترة الحالية ابتدينا نرجع بالتدريج على ما كنا عليه قبل حدوث الكورونا، وابتدينا ننزل على الشغل، ولكن بعد كده ابتدت تبقى في ضغوط تانية، من ضغوط إن الشخص بقى عنده خوف أكتر شوية من التعامل مع الناس، خوف من العدوى، عنده خوف كمان على موضوع الأسعار، لأن الأسعار ابتدت تزيد جدًا، وأسعار البنزين ابتدت تزيد، كل حاجة ابتدت تزيد، فالشخص أو رب الأسرة أو even حتى الشخص الشاب الصغير بيخاف كمان دلوقتي على مستقبله أكتر وأكتر. فهو كان بينصح بيقول بإنك أنت حاول تبني لنفسك كل مرة، كل مرحلة أنت نازل فيها من البيت، إنك تبني لنفسك هدف. أنت رايح الشغل عشان تطور من نفسك، رايح تشوف شغل جديد، رايح تشتري حاجة كويسة تستمتع بيها، رايح تشوف ناس أنت بتحبهم. فوجود الهدف، وجود التارجت ده اللي أنت رايح له أو رايح تعمله، ده بيساعدك جدًا إنك أنت ما تفكّرش في كل العوامل اللي هي موجودة، لإن بيقول إن لو أنت فكّرت في كل هذه العوامل مش هتحلّها، العوامل موجودة. يعني لمّا حضرتك تفكّر بإن البنزين زيادة وتحط ضغط على نفسك، البنزين مش هيرخص. لكن طبعًا هو البنزين زيادة، لكن فكّر بإن مشوارك اللي أنت رايحه ده هيفيدك بإيه. John, if you believe or not, it's 1 hour, it's already went
Wow.
faster.
Already.
The way you present today is so good and so valuable. So I don't look for the hours. It's already almost 2 minutes left, and our director already mentioned to me it's already 3 minutes. So believe me, today it is amazing day.
Well, thank you so much. It's been an honor and a pleasure to be here. Can I very quickly
For
mention
sure, yeah, we still
one
have
thing?
3 minutes. No, no problem.
Okay. Well, there is for people who want to know more about. I talked a lot about curiosity and being curious.
Yeah.
There is there is an event, a free workshop that I will be doing with another coach called "How to Be Curious: Communicating with Impact in a Multicultural Society." So I'm just going to
Yeah,
share.
definitely. We can invite all
Yeah.
our clients to sharing with you. It is amazing events. When's this event, John?
It is on Thursday, the July 28th at 11:30 a.m. From 11:30 to 12:30. I'm just trying to share it on this the screen right now,
Sure.
but I think you'll be available with that. I'm not sure if I can switch it over or
No,
not.
sure.
Okay, there we go. Yes.
Okay.
So as I understand, I think I can make this flyer available, which has the link to register. So that will be a 1 hour workshop. There will be some more exploration of myself and Ehsan Salami, who is the other coach. And their spaces are somewhat limited to about 20 participants.
It will be
So
online.
It will be online.
Online.
Yes, it will be
Awesome.
online
Awesome.
through Zoom. So you can register there, and we can talk more about, learn more about being curious, what I talked about today, and how that can really help you to adapt to different cultures and
That's amazing.
hopefully become a better
That's
person.
amazing. That's a gift for Arab Community Center of Toronto. Thank you. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
جون
Thank
كان
you.
بيقول لنا بان في ايفنت، الايفنت ده ان هو هاو تو بي كيوريوس، ازاي يكون عندك القدره انك انت تعرف حاجات جديده، يكون عندك القابليه انك انت تسال عن حاجات جديده. هي ده الاسم العام للايفنت او الورك شوب الموجوده قدام حضراتكم على الشاشه. وطبعا بوعدكم بان الفلاير ده هيكون موجود لجميع مستشارين مركز الجاليه العربيه. تقدروا تطلبوه مننا وهنبعته لكم على الايميل او على تليفوناتكم. تقدروا تسجلوا تدخلوا تحضروا. ده هيكون موافق يوم الثلاثاء ان شاء الله 28 جولاي الساعة 11:30 صباحا ل 12:30. هو مدته ساعة، نقدر نستفيد كلنا. أنا هكون موجود بإذن الله معاكم، حتى في إمكانية لو الترانسليشن أو الترجمة هكون موجود معاكم في هذا الإيفنت بإذن الله. وزي ما قلت لكم هيكون موجود الفلاير ده، هنبعته لحضراتكم وانس انك تطلبه مننا على الايميل الخاص بيك. هنبعته لك جميع مستشارين مركز الجاليه العربيه طبعا على الرحب والسعه. John, thank you very much. Really appreciate it. In behalf of the CEO of Arab Community Center of Toronto and all the counselors and social workers working with the Arab Community Center of Toronto, please accept our thankful for you and good luck for your business, because your business is amazing and we need it, really need it. Thank you very much. And promise me to come again with another ideas, with another sessions for sure. And the people already now, I promise them I have this flyer. It will be available with us. We will send it to them to register, and I will be there. Exactly, I will be the first one in this event.
Well, thank you so much for having me, for this wonderful opportunity to connect with all of the community members here, and thank you again so much for translating for me.
Thank you John. Thank you. See you later. أعزائي مشاهدين ومتابعين صفحة مركز الجالية العربية، يمكن أنا كنت ممتن جدا النهاردة وسعيد بهذا الحوار الشيق اللي تم بيني ما بين جون ماكان. جون هو مؤسس لجمعية أو منظمة. المنظمة دي الهدف منها هو مساعدة الناس في إن هي إزاي تتطور إلى المستقبل الأفضل. المنظمة دي اسمها هياكو كوتشنج. هياكو كوتشنج هي كلمة يابانية، الكلمة دي معناها التطور إلى الأفضل والطموح إلى مستقبل أفضل. اتكلمنا في أمور كتيرة، إزاي بنقدر نواجه الضغوطات اللي بتواجه الناس القادمين الجدد، زي الحنين إلى الوطن، إزاي كمان الضغوطات اللي بتواجه عدم وجود القدرة على التحدث باللغة الإنجليزية، تضارب الثقافات ما بين الولاد والبنات الموجودين في المدارس وفي الجامعات، تضارب الثقافات بين حضرتك وبين حضرتك، ما بين المجتمع اللي حضرتك بتنزل تشتغل فيه، إحساسك بعدم القدرة على التواصل مع المجتمع. قدرنا نتكلم كمان على الفرق ما بين اللايف كوتشنج ما بين الثيرابيست. قلنا ان اللايف كوتشنج ده هو بيهتم بالمستقبل وبيساعدك انك تجد الحلول لبكره من خلال انك تكون عندك القدره على التطور. اما الثيرابيست او الدكتور النفسي هو المتخرج من كليات الطب وبيكون له القدره على التعامل مع اشياء حصلت في الماضي وما زالت هذه الاشياء بتؤثر عليك بشكل نفسي. كل ده تقدروا كمان تراجعوه مرة تانية من خلال الفيديو لهذه الحلقة، هيكون موجود بشكل مسجل على صفحتكم مركز الجالية العربية أو على القناة الخاصة بينا على اليوتيوب تحت مركز الجالية العربية في تورونتو أو ACCT Arab Community Center of Toronto. اسمحوا لي إن أنا أقول لحضراتكم إن شاء الله الفترة القادمة هيكون لينا كل شوية هنيجي بحضراتكم بحلقة متميزة زي النهاردة. الاهتمام بالنفسية، الاهتمام بالأمور العقلية، الاهتمام بالأمور اللي احنا دايما كلنا كمجتمعات عربية ما بناخدش بالنا منها، وهو الاهتمام بالصحة النفسية للشخص. حرصا من مركز الجالية العربية عندنا مركز متخصص جوه مركز الجالية العربية هو مسؤول عن الصحة النفسية، اسمه الويل بينج. الويل بينج احنا عندنا فريق متخصص تقدروا حضراتكم تتواصلوا معاه للمساعدة في هذه الأمور، تطلبوا مساعدتهم. في عندنا الأستاذة سيفان والأستاذة مريم، تقدروا تطلبوا خدماتهم. مجرد انك تتصل بينا وتطلب خدمة الويل بينج او الصحة النفسية على الرحب والسعة. ودايما وابدا اسمحوا لي في نهاية هذه الحلقة ان انا اشكر حضراتكم على تفاعلكم وعلى شكركم وعلى دعمكم لمركز الجالية العربية ولي انا شخصيا في هذه الحلقات اللي انا بقدمها تحت إدارة مركز الجالية العربية لمساعدة حضراتكم. اوعدكم دائما ان احنا نكون على دائما وابدا عند حسن ظن حضراتكم، نقدم لكم المزيد من المعلومات ومن الحلقات التي تهم حضراتكم في إعادة التوطين وتربية الأولاد والبنات. إن شاء الله كل الأمور تبقى جيدة. استمتعوا بأوقاتكم فترة الصيف، خرجوا انبسطوا، فسحوا أولادكم، عيشوا حياة كويسة، والدنيا إن شاء الله ابتدت تتحسن وترجع للأفضل، وإن غدا لا نظيره قريب، وإن شاء الله أفضل وأفضل بإذن الله. اسمحوا لي أن ألقاكم بعد 15 يوم من النهاردة. أقول لكم لحضراتكم شكرا جزيلا. سلام عليكم، ابقوا في أمن ورعاية الله.